The phone call came on a Tuesday evening while I was watering my tomatoes. My daughter-in-law Sarah's voice was unusually sweet, which should have been my first warning sign. "Hi, Mum," she said, and I could hear my son Michael in the background telling the kids to quiet down. "We wanted to talk to you about Emma's graduation next week. Emma is my granddaughter, my firstborn grandchild, and she was graduating from high school. I'd been looking forward to this day for months. I'd already bought a new dress, navy blue with small flowers, and I'd even gotten my hair done the week before, just to make sure it would look perfect. This was a big deal for our family. Emma would be the first one to graduate and go straight to college. "Oh yes," I said, setting down my watering can. "I can't wait. What time should I be there? Do you want me to bring anything?" There was a pause. A long pause. Then Sarah cleared her throat. "Well, that's what we wanted to talk about. The thing is, we have limited seating. The school only gives each graduate 4 tickets, and with Michael and me, plus Emma's boyfriend Jake, and my parents flying in from Phoenix." I felt my stomach drop, but I waited for her to finish. "We were thinking maybe it would be better if you didn't worry about coming. We'll take lots of pictures and videos, and maybe we can all get together for dinner afterward to celebrate. Wouldn't that be nice?" I stood there in my garden, holding that phone, and I couldn't speak for a moment. Limited seating. 4 tickets. Her parents from Phoenix. But what about me? I was Emma's grandmother. I'd been there when she took her first steps, when she lost her first tooth, when she was scared of the dark and would only fall asleep if I sang her "You Are My Sunshine." "Mum, are you there?" Sarah's voice had lost that fake sweetness. "I'm here," I managed to say. "So you're telling me there's no room for me at my own granddaughter's graduation?" "It's not like that." Michael's voice came on the line. He must have taken the phone from Sarah. "Mum, you know how these things are. The auditorium is tiny, and Sarah's parents haven't seen Emma in 2 years. You see her all the time." That was true. I did see Emma regularly. I picked her up from school when her parents were working late. I helped her with her college applications. I was the one who took her shopping for her prom dress when Sarah was too busy with work. But apparently, that closeness didn't earn me a seat at her graduation. "What does Emma think about this?" I asked. Another pause. "Emma understands," Sarah said, back on the phone. "She knows you'll be there in spirit." In spirit. As if I were already dead. I told them I understood, said goodbye, and hung up. But I didn't understand. Not at all. To understand how it came to this, you need to know about my relationship with Michael and Sarah. It wasn't always complicated, but it had become that way over the past few years. When Michael first brought Sarah home 8 years ago, I thought she was lovely. She was smart, ambitious, working as a marketing manager at a tech company. She made my son happy, and that was what mattered to me. When they got married, I welcomed her into our family completely. I never did what some mothers-in-law do. I didn't criticize her cooking or offer unsolicited advice about how to run her household. When Emma came along 3 years into their marriage, I was over the moon. My husband had passed away 2 years earlier, and having a grandchild gave me a new purpose. I helped Sarah during those first difficult months with the baby. I'd come over and hold Emma so Sarah could shower or take a nap. I brought meals, did laundry, whatever was needed. But somewhere along the way, things shifted. Maybe it was when Sarah got promoted to director at her company and started working longer hours. Maybe it was when they moved to that bigger house in the better school district, 20 minutes farther from me instead of the 10 minutes it used to be. Or maybe it was when Sarah's own mother retired and started visiting more often. I began to notice little things. Sarah would make comments about how I spoiled Emma too much. If I bought Emma a toy or took her for ice cream, Sarah would say something like, We're trying to teach her that treats are earned, not given freely. When I offered to help with things around the house, Sarah would say, "We've got it handled, thanks." The worst part was watching Michael change. My son, who used to call me every few days just to chat, started screening my calls. When I'd suggest family dinners or outings, he'd say, "Let me check with Sarah first." It was as if he needed permission to spend time with his own mother. But I thought I still had my relationship with Emma. She was 16 now, old enough to make her own decisions about spending time with her grandmother. We had our traditions: Saturday morning pancakes at my house, trips to the bookstore, long walks where she'd tell me about her friends and her dreams for college. She wanted to study journalism, maybe work for a magazine or a newspaper. I encouraged her, told her she had the talent and the drive to do anything she set her mind to. That's why the graduation call hurt so much. This was supposed to be our moment to celebrate together. All those years I'd invested in Emma's life, and now I was being told there wasn't room for me. After I hung up the phone that Tuesday night, I sat in my kitchen and really thought about what had just happened. Sarah's parents from Phoenix. That was the excuse. But Sarah's parents had only met Emma a handful of times. They sent birthday cards with $20 bills and called on major holidays. But that was about it. I was the one who attended every school play, every soccer game, every parent-teacher conference when Michael and Sarah couldn't make it. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Not just angry, hurt, deeply hurt, but also determined. I'd been pushed aside one too many times, made to feel like I was some kind of burden on my own family. This graduation wasn't just about Emma. It was about my place in this family, my value as a grandmother and as a person. That's when I decided I wasn't going to just accept their decision. I was going to that graduation, invitation or not. The next morning, I called Lincoln High School directly. I told the secretary I was Emma Patterson's grandmother and I needed information about graduation seating. She was very helpful. She explained that yes, each graduate received 4 complimentary tickets for family, but that additional tickets could be purchased if they were available. The ceremony was being held in the school's new auditorium, which seated about 800 people. Most families only use their 4 tickets, she said, so we usually have extras available the week of graduation. Would you like me to put you on the list? Yes, please, I said, and gave her my information. She called me back Friday afternoon. Mrs. Patterson, I have 1 ticket available for Tuesday night's ceremony. Would you like to purchase it? Would I like to purchase it? I would have paid $100 for that ticket. As it turned out, it cost $15. The seat is in Section C, row 12, she said. It's toward the back of the auditorium. Perfect, I thought. I could see everything, but hopefully stay out of sight until the right moment. I spent the weekend preparing. I got my navy dress cleaned and pressed. I had my hair touched up at the salon. I even bought Emma a card and a small gift, a beautiful fountain pen with her initials engraved on it, something she could take to college. But I didn't tell anyone what I was planning. Not my sister, not my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, not anyone. This was something I had to do alone. Tuesday evening came. The graduation was at 7 o'clock. I arrived at the school at 6:30, wearing my navy dress and my best pearls, the ones my husband had given me for our 25th anniversary. I found my seat in Section C, row 12, and settled in to wait. The auditorium was filling up quickly. I saw families taking pictures, grandparents hugging their graduates, everyone dressed up and excited. About 15 minutes before the ceremony started, I saw them walk in. Michael was wearing his good grey suit, the one he wore to weddings and job interviews. Sarah had on a black dress I'd never seen before, probably something expensive, judging by how it fit. And there were Sarah's parents, her father in a navy suit that looked like it had been tailored, her mother in a cream-coloured outfit with a matching hat that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. They were seated in Section A, Row 5, much closer to the front than I was, but I had a perfect view of the backs of their heads. Emma's boyfriend Jake was with them, looking uncomfortable in a tie that was probably borrowed. He kept tugging at his collar and checking his phone. I watched them settle into their seats, Sarah's mother immediately pulling out her phone to take pictures of the auditorium. Sarah was scanning the program, probably looking for Emma's name. Michael was looking around, and for a moment I thought he might spot me, but his gaze passed right over my section. The lights dimmed, and the ceremony began. Principal Martinez took the stage and welcomed everyone. The school choir sang the national anthem, and then he began his remarks about the class of 2019 and their achievements. I tried to pay attention, but I kept staring at the back of my family's heads, wondering when would be the right time to make my presence known. The valedictorian gave her speech about overcoming challenges and pursuing dreams. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. They began calling names for diplomas. Adams, Jennifer, Bailey, Robert, Carson, Michael. The alphabet was moving along steadily. Emma's last name was Patterson, so I knew she'd be called somewhere in the middle of the ceremony. I took out my phone and started recording, just like every other proud family member in the auditorium. Mitchell, Sarah, Morgan, David, Nelson, Amanda. Getting closer now. I could see Michael leaning forward in his seat, probably getting his own phone ready to record. Sarah's mother had pulled out what looked like a professional camera with a huge lens. O'Brien, Catherine, Palmer, Joshua, Patterson, Emma. There she was. My granddaughter walked across that stage in her cap and gown, looking so grown up and confident. She shook Principal Martinez's hand, received her diploma, and turned to wave at her family. I could see Michael and Sarah standing up, clapping and cheering. Sarah's parents were on their feet too, camera flashing away. Emma couldn't see me from where I sat, but I stood up anyway and applauded as loudly as anyone. The woman sitting next to me smiled and said, "Your granddaughter?" "Yes," I said, still clapping. "That's my Emma." The ceremony continued through the rest of the alphabet, but I was planning my next move. I knew they'd all gather in the lobby afterward for pictures and congratulations. That's when I would make my appearance. When Principal Martinez announced that the class of 2019 was officially graduated, the auditorium erupted in cheers and applause. Caps went flying through the air, and families started making their way toward the exits to find their graduates. I waited until most of the crowd had cleared Section A. Then I made my way down toward the lobby. It was crowded and noisy, full of families hugging their graduates and taking pictures. I spotted Emma first. She was easy to find in her cap and gown, surrounded by her friends. She saw me before the rest of the family did. "Grandma!" she shouted, and came running over to hug me. "What are you doing here? I thought you couldn't come." "I couldn't miss this for the world, sweetheart," I said, hugging her tight. "Congratulations. I'm so proud of you." Over Emma's shoulder, I could see Michael and Sarah pushing through the crowd toward us. Sarah's parents were following behind, looking confused. "Mom?" Michael's voice was sharp with surprise and something else, maybe annoyance. "What are you doing here?" "I came to see my granddaughter graduate," I said calmly, still holding Emma, just like any grandmother would. Sarah appeared at Michael's elbow. Her face was flushed, and I could tell she was trying to decide whether to make a scene in public. "How did you even get a ticket?" "We told you the seating was limited." "The school had extra tickets available for purchase," I said. "I called and bought one." "You could have told us," Michael said. "We would have figured something out." "Would they have?" I doubted it very much. Emma was looking back and forth between her parents and me, starting to realize there was tension she hadn't known about. Wait, you told Grandma she couldn't come? Emma, it's complicated, Sarah started to say. No, it's not complicated, I said. Your parents decided there wasn't room for me at your graduation. But there was room. There's always room when you want to make room for someone. Sarah's parents had caught up to us now. Sarah's mother, Janet, extended her hand to me with a tight smile. You must be Michael's mother. I'm Janet Morrison, Sarah's mom, Joan Patterson, I said, shaking her hand. Emma's grandmother. Well, this is nice, Janet said, in a voice that suggested it was anything but nice. The more family here to celebrate Emma, the better. But I could see the look that passed between Janet and Sarah. They were not happy about this development. Emma was still holding onto my arm. Grandma, I'm so glad you're here. I was sad that you were going to miss it. I would never miss something this important to you, I said. And I meant it. After all the congratulations and pictures in the lobby, Sarah suggested we go to dinner to celebrate. She named a restaurant I'd never heard of, probably expensive. I could tell this was her attempt to maintain control of the situation, to manage my unexpected appearance. That sounds lovely, I said. Should we meet there? Or do you want to ride together? I saw Michael and Sarah exchange a look. They hadn't planned for me to be at dinner either. Why don't we all just meet there at 8:30? Michael said finally. That'll give everyone time to go home and change. I knew what that meant. It was their chance to have a private conversation about my unexpected appearance, to figure out how to handle the rest of the evening. But Emma linked her arm through mine. Can I ride with you, Grandma? I want to hear about how you got a ticket when they said there weren't any. Before her parents could object, I said, Of course, sweetheart. We'll see everyone at the restaurant. In my car, Emma immediately asked the question I'd been expecting. Grandma, what really happened? Why did my parents tell you not to come? I thought carefully about how to answer. I didn't want to poison her relationship with her parents, but I also wasn't going to lie to her. They said the seating was limited, and they could only get 4 tickets, I told her. They chose to use those tickets for your parents, your boyfriend, and your other grandparents. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she said, But you're at everything. You're always there for me. That doesn't make sense. Sometimes adults make decisions that don't make sense, I said. But what matters is that I was able to be there tonight to see you graduate. I'm so proud of you, Emma. She squeezed my hand. I'm glad you came anyway. At the restaurant, the atmosphere was tense, despite everyone's attempts to keep things celebratory. Sarah's parents dominated the conversation, talking about their flight from Phoenix and how much the city had changed since they'd last visited. Jake, Emma's boyfriend, seemed overwhelmed by all the family drama he was witnessing. Sarah kept making pointed comments about last-minute changes to plans and how it would have been nice to have a heads-up about extra guests when she was talking to the server about the table size. But Michael surprised me. About halfway through dinner, he raised his glass and said, I want to make a toast to Emma and to all the family who came to celebrate with her tonight. He looked directly at me when he said all the family. It was a small gesture, but it meant something. Emma gave a little speech thanking everyone for coming, and she made a point of thanking me specifically for finding a way to be here, even when it seemed impossible. After dinner, we all stood outside the restaurant saying our goodbyes. Sarah's parents were flying back to Phoenix the next afternoon, so this was their big farewell to Emma. There were more pictures, more hugs, more promises to stay in touch. As they were getting into their rental car, I heard Janet say to Sarah, Well, that was unexpected. She wasn't trying to whisper. Michael walked over to me as I was getting my keys out. Mum, We need to talk. Yes, we do, I said. But not tonight. Tonight was about Emma, and it was perfect. I mean it, Mom. We can't have you just showing up places when we've made other arrangements. I looked at my son, this man I'd raised and loved and supported through everything, and I felt something shift inside me. Michael, I said quietly, I am your mother and Emma's grandmother. I've been part of this family for 63 years, and I've been part of Emma's life since the day she was born. If you want to exclude me from family events, that's your choice. But don't expect me to quietly disappear just because it's convenient for you. He started to say something, but I held up my hand. I'm not done. I bought a ticket to that graduation because I earned the right to be there. I've earned my place in this family. And if you can't see that, then maybe the problem isn't me showing up uninvited. Maybe the problem is that I haven't been making myself heard clearly enough. I got in my car and drove home, leaving Michael standing in the parking lot. The next few weeks were interesting, to say the least. Michael didn't call me for almost 10 days after the graduation, which was unusual for him. Even when we were going through rough patches, he typically checked in every few days. But Emma called me the very next day. Grandma, can I come stay with you this weekend? I want to hear more about your secret mission to get into my graduation. She spent Saturday and Sunday at my house, and we had the best time. We made pancakes, went to the bookstore, and had long talks about college and her future plans. She also told me some things that opened my eyes to what had been going on in her family. Mum and Dad have been fighting a lot lately, she said while we were walking through the park. Not big fights, but like tense conversations that stop when I walk into the room. About what? I asked. I think it's about money, mostly. Mum wants to redo the kitchen, and Dad thinks they should wait. And there's some stuff about college expenses that they're worried about. That explained a lot. Sarah had always been focused on appearances, on having the right house and the right clothes, and being seen at the right places. If money was tight, she'd be feeling pressure to maintain their lifestyle. And having Sarah's parents visit, parents who clearly had money, would have made that pressure even worse. Maybe excluding me from the graduation wasn't really about seating at all. Maybe it was about Sarah not wanting me to see how much money her parents were spending on Emma, or not wanting the comparison between their gifts and mine. But understanding their motives didn't excuse what they'd done. The following Tuesday, Michael finally called. Mum, we need to have that conversation. Yes, we do, I agreed. Why don't you come over for dinner tonight? Just you. He arrived at 6 with a bottle of wine and an uncertain expression. We made small talk while I finished cooking, but finally, over dinner, we addressed what had happened. I know you're upset about the graduation thing, he began. Michael, I'm not upset. I'm disappointed. There's a difference. He set down his fork. What do you want me to say, Mum? Sarah was stressed about the seating. Her parents were coming. It seemed easier to exclude your own mother rather than deal with the complications. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Yeah, that's exactly what we did. And I know it was wrong. I appreciated his honesty, but I needed him to understand the bigger picture. This isn't just about graduation, Michael. This is about a pattern. Over the past couple of years, I've felt increasingly pushed to the sidelines of your family. Sarah makes decisions about Emma without consulting me, even when they affect time Emma and I had planned to spend together. You ask for Sarah's permission before making plans with your own mother. And now this. Michael rubbed his forehead. Mom, marriage is about compromise. Sarah and I make decisions together. I understand that. But when did I become something you needed to compromise away? We talked for 2 hours. Really talked. Maybe more honestly than we had in years. Michael admitted that Sarah felt I was too involved in Emma's life, that I spoiled her and undermined their parenting. I admitted that I might have overstepped sometimes, but that my intentions were always to support Emma and help the family. The thing is, Mom, Sarah's parents live far away. They're not in Emma's daily life the way you are. When they come to visit, it's special. It's different. So I'm being punished for being present and available? No, that's not what I meant. But that's what it sounds like, Michael. I'm too involved when I help Emma with homework and take her shopping and attend her school events. But I'm also supposed to step aside when the special grandparents come to town. By the end of the conversation, we'd reached something like an understanding. Michael acknowledged that I should have been included in the graduation from the beginning. I acknowledged that there might be times when I needed to be more mindful of boundaries. But I also made something very clear. I'm not going to become a part-time grandmother to make Sarah comfortable. Emma is important to me, and I'm important to her. That relationship isn't up for negotiation. The real test came a month later, when Emma's 18th birthday was approaching. Sarah called to discuss party plans, and I waited to see whether I'd be included in the planning or just invited to attend. "We're thinking of having a barbecue in the backyard," Sarah said. "Nothing too fancy. Would Saturday the 15th work for you?" "It works fine," I said. "What can I bring?" "You don't need to bring anything," she said quickly. "Sarah," I said calmly, "I'd like to contribute something to my granddaughter's birthday party. What would be helpful?" There was a pause. Then she said, "Actually, if you could handle dessert, that would be great. Emma loves your chocolate cake." It was a small thing, but it felt like progress. I was being included, not just invited. The party was lovely. Emma was happy, surrounded by friends and family. Sarah's parents weren't there this time. They'd sent a generous check instead of making the trip. I brought my chocolate cake and watched Emma blow out the candles, make a wish, and hug everyone who'd come to celebrate with her. Later, as I was helping clean up, Sarah and I found ourselves alone in the kitchen for a few minutes. "Joan," she said quietly, "I want you to know that I never intended to hurt your feelings about the graduation." It was the first time she'd addressed it directly. "I know you didn't intend to hurt me," I said. "But intentions and impact aren't always the same thing." She nodded. "I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Emma told me how proud she was that you found a way to be there. She said you've never missed anything important to her. I try not to. I know you do. And I know I need to do better about including you in things instead of working around you." It wasn't a complete apology, but it was acknowledgement. And sometimes that's where healing begins. Now, 6 months later, things aren't perfect, but they're better. Sarah includes me in planning family events. Michael doesn't ask permission to spend time with me anymore. Emma is getting ready for college, and I'm helping her pack and plan, just like any involved grandmother would. I learned something important that night when I walked into that graduation ceremony uninvited. I learned that sometimes you have to fight for your place in the lives of the people you love. Not fight in an ugly way, but fight by showing up, by refusing to be erased, by insisting on your own worth. They said, "Don't worry about coming to the graduation. We'll send pictures." But I went anyway, and I'm glad I did. Because some moments are too important to experience secondhand, and some relationships are too precious to let others decide their boundaries for you. Emma starts college in 2 months. When she graduates from university in 4 years, I'll be there. And this time I won't be waiting for an invitation.